guys. I don't normally make videos like this. I try to avoid it actually. But in this particular situation, I think this is a video that's been a long time coming. I think it needs to happen. So, first of all, before I go into any detail on what's going to follow up, I want to say that I do not approve of doxing or attacking people outside of the internet for whatever reason. You may not like them, you may not like what they've done, but please try to keep their real persona completely differentiated from what happens online. I know there's been talk about doxing and stuff. I may or may not have the information on hand to allow that to happen, but I never will because it's something that I'm fully against. Please don't. Okay? I don't care what I think it's justified. It's never justified. So, with that out of the way, talk about. So, obviously, there's a new official server opening. Ask me to try it. I will never. And the reason for that is because of what did happen on iRO. Now, I'm not going to say that the staff are bad people or whatever. Now, I want you to understand something about the relationship that I have with iRO and Warp Portal as it stands right now. After the EU ban, I deleted everything related to iRO and Warp Portal from my computer. I even went and manually stripped out all of the browsing history, everything, so that it wouldn't even come up in my autoplay. It hurt my feelings. I've never been to the Warp Portal forum since the ban. I know people have posted stuff there pretending to be me. There's only one time I've ever gotten involved, and that's when I passed information on to a friend to share. But I've never personally opened the Warp Portal forums. I have no intention to. So when the EU ban hit, I was very close to quitting anyway. You know, those of you who have frequented the iRO forums and stuff would know that there was a lot of bullshit that used to on a daily basis. And you know, it's sad to say, but after being uninvolved and having stepped away for a bit, I've got a lot clearer perspective on what happened now, and I have all the information that I needed on hand. The problem is when I was involved, I wasn't putting it together and looking at it rationally for what it was. I had suspicions, but I thought I was paranoid or that, you know, maybe I deserved it or something. Now, to be clear, nobody deserves that. Okay. Nobody deserves any of what happened. So, with this in mind, I want to say that I am strongly of the opinion that the iRO staff supported the harassment against me. I did log on old guildies accounts after they had left guild. There was one particular instance where the guy was sharing his ticket numbers on an enemy Ventrilo. You can view Ventrilo comments from off server. And to view these tickets, you need their email address, which I had. And I viewed his tickets. And basically, this is just one example. Keep this in mind. One example. He came up to me in game and he told me to simultaneously get hit by a bus and get cancer and die. And he was banned for 3 days. So far, so good. Okay, but he messaged back and he was like, you're punishing my guild for something I did. They need me there in War of Imperium. You banned my War of Imperium character. And lo and behold, the higher tier GMs swept in and unbanned him after a couple of hours. It's not an isolated incident. It happened a lot. There are many examples where I would look at the forums and be like, why is this person still here? Why haven't they taken action against this person who is being extremely nasty to their players? You know, there would be threats, but they would never be followed through despite like a plethora of evidence. And I don't want to say that the staff that were directly dealing with it were complicit. Well, they were complicit, but not making those decisions. When you piece it all together, you start to realize that what was actually happening was that they were perfectly supportive of this whole drama and rivalry that was coming from a place that it shouldn't, because obviously, you know, we all, myself included, were buying cash shop items and subscriptions and loot boxes to fuel our wars against these people, which were very intense, and obviously that kind of like highly emotional atmosphere fueled the cash shop sales intensely, and yeah, it was a huge moneymaker for them. So that said, you know, it makes sense why they did it. Do I hold any ill will against them for it? Yeah, a bit. More on like the company policy. I mean, I get that a bit of rivalry is good for like spurring cash shop sales and wanting to make money and stuff. They're a company, I get that. But the level of things that were happening were beyond acceptable to me. So when someone says to me, will you go back to official servers? I realise that I'd be putting myself in a situation where my mental health could be harmed irrevocably. And I don't want to become that person I became when I was highly stressed and being attacked. Now I want to give you some insight into how this online bullying affects someone on this scale. So for every person that would insult my appearance or call me names or tell me to die or tell me to get cancer, you gotta understand, for every one person who did that and thought they were being funny, there was like 15 others doing the same thing. It was never just one guy. It was always, you know, this guy, that guy, another guy, another guy. And then people say to me, oh, block him. It's okay, I'll block him. But then the next week, someone else is doing it. And I would just be in this constant spiral of blocking people. And people say to me, well, ignore it. It's just stuff on the internet. Okay. Yeah, fair. The point is, though, that this happened for over 10 years, over a decade. Put this in perspective, actually a decade and a half. Closer to 2. And I mean, I could have always had the option to walk away, but I don't want to walk away from people who are doing something wrong when I'm not doing something wrong. You know, if I'm the one that's being targeted by people who are crossing lines and I'm not the one crossing the line, I'm just playing a video game, I'm a guild leader, and, you know, well, maybe I had a disagreement with this guy, maybe a disagreement with that guy, you know, maybe I've got an angry ex-boyfriend who likes to spread rumors, which is part of where all this came from, sadly. So all of that, why should I be the one to leave? Why should I be punished? Because these people were being fairly terrible. And what always worried me is that it, you know, if it wasn't for me, if it wasn't happening to me, it would happen to someone else. Okay. So after, I used to laugh it off. I'd be like, oh, you know, internet, lol, you know, I'm not bothered by it. But it would reach a point where it just kind of like seeps into the back of your mind and you're like, if 100 people say something is true and you're disagreeing with them, then logically you're probably wrong. Okay? And there were obviously a lot more people joining in on the bad behavior than there were people PMing me saying, "Oh, thanks for your help. You know, thank you for helping me get the client working. Thank you for helping me with my assassin build." You know, I get a lot of those PMs, but they never compared in number to the amount of bullshit that I was receiving. You know, it reached a point where I couldn't even log in anymore because there would always be people at the guild spot that I used to hang out at. I'd go find a new guild spot, they'd find me, and you know, they'd just sit there with chats AFK all day, and I'd report it to the GMs, and they would like maybe take the chat down or kick the guy, and then he'd be back on an ult and another ult and another ult and another ult, and there was never any sort of like real huge repercussions for it. Big shout out to iRO Wiki for allowing it to happen all of these years and actually supporting it and giving out all the information needed to do it. What Portal were aware that all this was happening, and they wouldn't take any action against iRO Wiki because they know that they need iRO Wiki to survive, because they can't provide resources for their players to make the game enjoyable. iRO Wiki has to do it because they don't have either the resources or KRO won't allow them. It's one of those two. One of those is a lie. You can figure out which one it is. I'm pretty sure I know. And yeah, so they are highly dependent on iRO Wiki, who would threaten to pull their resources and take them down if iRO didn't play game or do as they wanted. So that was also a layer of detail to this. So yeah, every day I would log in and I would want to just play a video game, and people would be putting up chats and DMing me or making guild names or going on the forums. And it wasn't just the personal harassment. Like, I mean, that was a huge factor. There was a guy who made spam bots posting my photo. He photoshopped a bunch of dicks on. And these bots would PM anyone that walks past me, put them all over Prontera, and I mean, that obviously got him banned because it was super, super obvious and crossed even a line that the staff wouldn't accept. But even then, you know, the fact that it reached that point, why did he do this? He did it because I refused to sell him an MVP card that I was price checking. That's it. That was literally it. I have all this saved actually somewhere. I don't want to read that stuff because it makes me salty. So I am a much happier and more stable person now that I'm not in that kind of atmosphere. Like I said, you know, I've never gone back to the Warp Portal forums because it's a very emotionally charged topic for me, and it's not, oh no, they might call me names or whatever. It really is to do with the emotional pain that came with the person that I became under that kind of pressure. I drew a picture once. I posted on the forums, so it got deleted very quickly. So there was a day when it was a bit of a meme for the enemy guild to say that I ruined the game, I ruined the server, I killed the game, you know, and I was ruining it for everyone, and the staff let this slide a lot. And you know, obviously, because I was the person that ruined the game, then it was okay to insult me regarding, you know, my appearance or this kind of, you know, all that kind of stuff. There was one time when I went on a 2-week vacation to visit a good friend of mine who I actually met through iRO, guild leader, and he has his own extremely amazing story involving the iRO staff, actually. If you ever look up Danilo Kavina and Wild Blaze, I highly suggest you read it up. It's extremely entertaining if you ever find it out. But anyway, so I flew out to meet this friend for a couple of weeks. It means I missed WoW for 2 weeks, okay? And the RO community obviously noticed that I wasn't there and that my guild was severely reduced because they all decided, you know, well, Zali's not here, let's take a day off. You know, let's take a week off, that'll be great. So they took a week off, and I came back to a flurry of party names and chats and all sorts of things. The party names were like "Go Back on Vacation." The forums were spammed with "The game was so much nicer when she wasn't here." Did anyone else notice that? I was walking through one map to do a quest or some such. Anyway, so I'm walking through, and this person comes up to me and goes, "We're so sorry that we beat you so hard that you tried to commit suicide and took a week off RO." And it was just like this constantly, all week, every day. So I couldn't log in game anymore because, you know, there would be chats and PMs and people saying stuff. I couldn't really do War of Imperium because I had to /EX all during WoW, even though I needed to communicate with people like alliance leaders, guild leaders and stuff that were friendly. In PM, because of the sheer number of people that would PM me with nonsense, I had to EX all and find another way to communicate with these guys outside of the game. The forums weren't safe. They would accuse me of ruining the game and post memes about my appearance and stuff. iRO Wiki wasn't safe because, you know, they pretty much encouraged it too. So it was reaching a point where I just couldn't log in, couldn't do anything. And I thought to myself, man, I must be a really terrible person for all of these people to think that I deserve this over a video game. Like, I must legitimately be a really horrible person. As, you know, they all call me ugly. Maybe that's true. It probably is true. I mean, people agree. You know, I have a small guild of like 20 to 30 people. I'm playing against hundreds and hundreds of people, all ganging up and saying the same stuff, and they even get unbanned with an apology after saying it. So I sat down, I scribbled out all of the words in my head at that moment. This image is a little emotionally charged, but you can see I've kept it because I think it's a really good snapshot into the mindset of someone that is dealing with mass harassment. It's a huge problem. None of it is... I don't think there's any sort of like rhyme or reason to do it. You know, people will say, "Oh, you deserve it because you beat us in War of Imperium." I'm gonna have to edit that. My camera froze. OBS froze, and I don't want to lose everything that I put to. So yeah. Anyway, people would say that I would deserve this kind of constant harassment because, you know, we beat them in War of Imperium or whatever. I would stream and they would hear our voice chat during WONA. You know, it's a competitive environment. Sometimes it's a little charged, right? We'll say things like, "Hey, kill that noob. What's this guy doing?" You know? "Man, is this guy cheating? He looks like he's cheating." We don't know if he's cheating or not. We're just talking in the spur of the moment. It was never anything personal or targeted. But, you know, people obviously took it that way. And yeah, I mean that's where it kind of ends. So if we fast forward a little bit, Classic is dying, most of the guilds are quitting, Restart comes out, it's the final blow for Classic, everyone pretty much leaves. Going to Restart, and what happened there was they were harassing me a little bit. Not much. By this time, I've pretty much all but stopped playing. I have very little interest in the game at this point. I'm just there because of my guild. Somehow I ended up with a huge guild. guess it was just like the reputation and the name that carried it. I was barely leading. It was all in the hands of my co-leader, and you know, shout out to Shomei. He is a great guy. So yeah, all in the hands of other people in the guild, and I'm barely logging in because even though it's not happening as much, you know, they're still coming by and they're reminding me that everyone out there hates me. And of course, you know, you've got that whole mindset from that picture sitting in the back of my head because, you know, it's being enforced by the fact that these people are still here and I'm the one that's expected to leave. And then they started attack because I was less visible at that time. They started attacking one of my guilding. Really nice guy called Debo. He also streams. And he's black, and he was getting fairly terrible racially charged. I don't say that lightly, okay? I say that very seriously. And again, those people who were doing that still welcome there, and you know, it's just part of the culture of playing on iRO. You know, you gotta understand that when you are playing there, the game isn't their product. Because iRO has no content, so to speak. Well, RO in general lacks a lot of content and story. The players create the content and the story. So you understand that when you play iRO, you are the product. Okay? Which a lot of people may be fine with. I was fine with it for a while. I knew that, you know, to an extent, being a popular guild leader was, I was bringing people into play and it was making them money, and I was fine with that. But ethically, after taking a step back and looking at everything, I've stopped being okay with it. If someone else feels like they would be okay in that position where they're getting, you know, their personal details thrown out there, where they're, you know, logging into harassment every day on the forums, on the fan sites, people adding them on external messengers to harass them, taking it to Facebook. There was Facebook groups where they were sharing abusive posts and photos and stuff. Now obviously iRO can't, well, you know, technically can't do anything about that, but I didn't expect them to. It's just kind of, maybe if they sort of like cracked down on it within their community, it wouldn't have spread to the degree that it did. You know, it would have said, you know, we don't want these kind of people in our community. It's not okay, instead of giving these sort of bullies a safe place. You know, that's what I would have expected from them. But yeah, I mean, if someone else thinks that they can go through all of that, and then, you know, there was the DDoSing, they got my IP from the fan sites, because the fan site admins have no morals. You know, people, they harass my family on Facebook. I got rape threats and death threats in email when my email got out there. I had to change that. My cell phone number got out there at one point. I had to change that. It just, there's no line that they wouldn't cross. When I got those death threats in my email, I actually had to seriously consider that these people are batshit, and there was a good chance that they could follow through on it, to the point that I had to get the police involved. So it really is on iRO for allowing it to snowball to that situation where they said, you know, we're okay with, you know, this sort of like mass harassment. It's making someone a meme or dehumanizing them, and point that, yeah, this is a guild leader, just harass them. It's just some person in our game, you know. Go call them names so they spend cash points to kill you in War of Imperium. Really. But I want to reiterate that despite all of this, I never ever want to see or hear of something retaliatory or bad happening to the iRO staff, and a lot of the reason I didn't put the video out sooner was because I didn't want to ruin the game for the rest of the people who were playing. You know, you can say, oh, it doesn't affect me. I'm having fun in game and I just want to play Ragnarok. Well, I just wanted to play Ragnarok too, you know? And I didn't have that option. It was taken away from me by the fact that this stuff was allowed to spiral in the way that it did. So, you know, I sincerely hope that every mention of my name is scrubbed from the iRO forums somewhere, because I'm sure if people search, they will find plenty of the harassment. It's all over Google. If you look hard enough. I had to reach out to a popular website that takes user submissions in the last year or so to get some stuff taken down that iRO players did. It sat there for a good decade, and it was a real fight to get rid of it. And yeah, I mean, I'm out of words with that. Just let's not see any doxing, and if you do play official servers, and I'm not going to get into whether or not I think that's a good idea or a bad idea. I'm just going to talk about what is best for me on an individual level here. And for me as an individual, the best choice for me is to not play those servers because of what happened, and I don't want to be that person that I became under that amount of duress. It was a terrible, terrible time, and a little traumatic. You know, one of the staff even joked to me, you know, oh, you only play here because you have Stockholm Syndrome. Little does he know how close he was with that. And while all this harassment was going on, you might think, well, why didn't I just sort of like turn off and, you know, leave? Well, the staff were constantly talking to me about how I was helpful and useful to the community and how they valued my input and all this. Blah. Oh, you're a good person. And then there was the infamous, if you quit, then Classic will die and I'll literally lose my house. No words for that one. You know who you are. Most of the staff that I've interacted with have been absolutely stellar. They've been really good people, which is why I say, you know, don't don't ever consider like doxing them or anything, because ultimately for a long time I did consider them friends. Some of them, you know, I'm still open to being friends with. If I ever get to a point where I can stand to contact people from iRO again. But just remember, you know, everyone out there is human. Staff are human. Guild leaders are human. The guild members are human. People who take part in this nonsense, people who take part in this harassment, they're human. They just think it's a joke. This is lulz on the internet that they're joining in with. The responsibility of the community managers and the staff and the admins is to set the tone for their community, and by allowing this to reach the point that it did, they ultimately failed in creating a fun and safe environment. You know, they can have all the excuses in the world. Oh, you're a girl, so people react badly. You just have to deal with it. Oh, fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck everything. Right? I don't need to be blamed for what happened there. And I blamed myself for a really long time. And it's taken me literally years to recover from iRO. So, with all that said and done, video is definitely longer than it needed to be. I've rambled a bit, but I mean, I'm hoping that you guys will understand why, you know, I don't accept people reaching out to me to play official servers. I still strongly support people playing RO to have the kind of life experience that it opened up for me. I think that it can be a great thing. So, you know, by all means enjoy it and do what you need to do. But be aware that this kind of thing can happen. And it does happen. And it can be extremely harmful. And if you think that you are in that position really, really needs abort, get out of the game as soon as you can. You might think you can handle it, but for how long, right? People are like sponges. If you sell them something long enough, it gets saturated and it starts to leak out. And that's basically what happened with me. I've made my peace. You know, there is probably only 2 people over the whole of everything that happened on iRO that I will never forgive. And in both cases, it doesn't directly affect me. What they did, they were horrible to me, I won't deny that, but what they did didn't actually target me that made me make that decision. So, with all that said and done, love and peace, enjoy the game. I will continue creating resources for people to enjoy iRO to its fullest potential, because like I said, you know, we all deserve to have fun. Be kind.